Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD Relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about PMDD and seasonal depression, otherwise known as SAD. If you ask my PMDD partner what this is, he would call it a slump. That's what he's been calling it the last couple of months, where I've genuinely been like, what is going on with my PMDD partner? I've had so many arguments. We've been near breakup like 75 times. And I was so confused. And he kept saying, I'm in the slump and blah, 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 blah. And I thought he was using it as an excuse because he kept saying that he was in a slump. So I want to give you a little bit of background that when we met when we both lived in Hawaii. And obviously, you know, it's sunny, like the majority of the year there. The weather's amazing. All of our activities were like hiking, surfing, at the beach. Like our life was amazing. Just thinking about it right now makes me want to cry because I miss it so much. But we didn't deal with seasonal depression during that time when we first met and we got connected and we got married. Then he went to Dubai and he lived there for a year. And that's when I noticed that he would get into these quote unquote slumps and he would be so like he wasn't motivated. Like, for example, when we first met and the way our lifestyles are, we both do morning routines, and I call my PMDD Partners morning routine because I customize it to the cycle of PMDD that I'm in, and it really helps me in my relationship. And we both used to do it. Like he wakes up early, I wake up early, and we get the morning routine done, and it's always before work, and he just sets us up for the day. And we're used to like sending like sweaty selfies or like saying, you know, I love you so much. Like, let's have a great day, and just really positive vibes first thing in the morning. And that's one of the things that really attracted me to my PMDD partner, was that we had these, you know, times in the certain points of the day where we were just very motivated, very connected. And then I noticed during certain times of the year, like I didn't even put this together, honestly. I just thought, because he would attribute it to other things that was going on, like work is stressful, you know, all these things. Like he would have genuine things that were wrong with him during these times of the year. And I would be like, oh, okay, that's why. But this particular year, I'm like, wait a minute, I started researching it because I was already in the research for my PMDD doctorate. And I'll give you guys another episode on that process. But I was already in the research, and he was just telling me his symptoms, like all of the things. Number one, he was completely not motivated to do anything. First thing in the morning, and he's a morning person. Normally, like good, bad day, whatever, he's normally up really, really early and just moving, and he goes to sleep really early. This particular time, he was still going to sleep early. He was waking up, and he was waking up groggy, lethargic, grumpy, and he's normally like the happy person in the morning. I'm normally the one that I'll get up in the morning, but I'm not like a super social person. Like he was just getting up and starting complaining, and his body was aching, and he stopped doing his morning routine. Like, that was the biggest part for me. I was like, wait, because we have Apple Watch. And so whenever we used to do our workouts, we would kind of hear the ping, or we would see the calories come in from doing part of the morning routine. So when I say morning routine, his is different from mine. His morning routine consisted of getting up. He would, go do a workout. Then he would come back and he would like start cleaning up around, getting his uniform ready for work, and just being really, really active, getting to work really, really early and getting work done before the people got there, because he's a leader for his staff or whatever. So he skipped parts. So he stopped working out. He would like go straight to work, but then he would always say, like, at the end of the day, like, he had so much to do, like, at work. So that allowed me to know that he wasn't getting to work early and being super productive by skipping his workout. Like, he was getting there. And he drives in traffic. He lives in San Diego, California. So he was driving in traffic, which he's done for like months. And all of a sudden, it's like he had an issue with that. It was like, the traffic is horrible. Everything was horrible. Like, I gotta sit here. Whereas before, he was driving in traffic and listening to podcasts and like pretty much talking to me and like making the best of it. So the times that I would talk to him on the way home, he would be like, hey, I'm about to leave. It's, I'm leaving work or whatever. So I would call him, and I'm like a night owl. So I'm more lively like towards the end of the day, because I'm going to end up staying up late. So I'm always like, hey babe, what's going on? Really happy at the end of the day, like to tell him about my day and all the things. And he kept finding stuff wrong with everything I was telling him, like super grumpy, like, I don't even think you should do that. And I don't, like, just not being super supportive. And he just was very negative, very, very negative over anything I could have told him. Like, the sky is blue. And he'd be like, are you sure? Like, it was just, I was so, and so at first I kind of like tried to overlook it. I was like, okay, he's just, cause he kept saying I'm in a slump and blah, blah, blah. But he was blaming it on work. He was talking about the cold weather, but he, I already know that he doesn't like the cold, but I didn't know it was to this extent. And so time had gone by. This began around November, when the temperature first started to drop. I'm in Northern California. He's in Southern California, but still the temperature dropped. This year has been like crazy for the weather. It's been really rainy. We've had like monsoon season. And then for him, it's been cold and dark and rainy. Like, when daylight saving time started, and it started getting darker earlier. So it was like dark when he got off of work. It's like he's kept getting worse and worse according to the weather. And I was like, what the heck is wrong? So it went from me in the initial months of me being really supportive and be like, oh, that's okay, babe, or trying to still be positive, to me being really irritated, being like, what's going on with him? So we went on a couple of vacations. And as you hear through the episodes, we've had horrible times on our vacations when it's normally like the best times ever. But he's just been so negative and such, like, we get up to do things that we would normally do. He didn't do them. And so that, for me, it's like when you stop doing the things that you normally do that actually connect with like us together, like, I don't know what's going on. So when I was researching it and I was looking up seasonal depression, and I remember how much he didn't like the cold, and I'm like, okay, maybe this has something to do with it, because I distinctly remember when he lived in different places. He lived in Georgia in the US, and a couple of other places where when it got cold, his mood would like change. Like, he is like low energy, no motivation on the weekends, didn't want to do anything. And it really caused a strain on our relationship, because when I went into PMDD and I was already low energy, fatigue, anxiety, depression, misophonia, the cravings, the weight gain from the bloating, like all of these symptoms that I had, he was not my anchor. Like, normally he was the positive person that would be like, that's okay, babe. Like, we got this. Like, he just fell into every trap of argument and just like got even more negative and more. He even started to get avoidant, like, let's just break up, like mentioning divorce like so many times. And I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? And that's when I realized he actually has seasonal depression. And I know that so many other PMDD partners have this because it's weird. I talk about it with my private clients, but I didn't associate it with my PMDD partner because he kept calling it a slump. Like, I'm in a slump. And so when we finally had this conversation about everything that had been going on during the last couple months, I was like, enough is enough. Like, we can't keep talking about divorce and breaking up. Like, every time I go into PMDD and we're having these arguments, and the basis of my argument was like, you're not showing up the way you normally do. I don't even know who you are. I'm not recognizing any of your behaviors right now. I was killing myself trying to do extra things to cheer him up, to make him feel better, and nothing was working, which was more frustrating for me. And I was like, I don't even have the energy to do this, but I'm trying to do this for you because I just feel like if you go back to your morning routine, if you go back to the things that make you happy, then you could just be happy. And he just kept saying, no, I'm in a slump. And what he told me was, I don't need you to try to fix me. I need you to allow me to be in this slump and just support me and not fight with me on it. So we had our latest trip. And during our latest trip, I think I gave up on trying to like get him out of it, this slump. I was like, you know what? And luckily I was in my follicular phase. So everything he was doing that would normally trigger me when I was in my PMDD, I just allowed him to do it. Like, he was doing he was just complaining about stuff. Like, we were going to different places. He's complaining about the food. He's complaining about the drinks. He's complaining about the weather. He's like, that's why I didn't know that it was like seasonal depression, because he was complaining about everything, including the seasons. So when you have seasonal depression, it's like the weather affects you, but you're not always just complaining about the weather. So I want you to look out for that for your PMDD partner. If you're going through a certain season, like, it doesn't always mean that they're complaining specifically about the weather. They may call it like a funk, a slump, like, I don't know. But what I mentioned it, even with, a friend of mine reached out to me and told me that his partner was going through seasonal depression. And when he was describing it, I'm like, yep, that's exactly like what's going on. And then I remember him saying like, yeah, she normally comes out of it around March. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much when my partner comes out of it. It's normally from November to March. But initially, and so you have to think November, December, January, February, March. That's 5 months. And we didn't go through this when we lived in Hawaii, which is letting me know when we retire, we have to live someplace warm because this is ridiculous. This is for the birds. 10 out of 10 don't suggest, because it's caused so many issues. It's caused me to look at things in our relationship that aren't really the problem, because they deflect. They make it seem like other things are the problem. You're the problem. This situation is the problem. The waiter's the problem. Like, all of these things, when it's really that they're in this seasonal depression and they're not good. There's nothing that can make them come out of it. So this last trip we went to, I went to San Diego. Where did we do this last trip? Oh, we literally were going downtown, beautiful San Diego. The sun was shining. It was a little bit cooler, but I mean, the sun was shining. We're by the beach. And he was like, you know what I hate about San Diego? Like, the fact that there's a beach, but the water's cold. Like, what's the point of having the water there if nobody can get in it because it's freezing? And I was like, oh. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, that picture of the water is beautiful. Like, I thought, it's very picturesque, even if you can't get into the water. But I know we've lived in Hawaii and we've been to Florida. So like the water is normally warmer. So it is like, hey, you see the water, you get in. Whereas we tried to go to San Diego and get in and it was like freaking freezing. But again, I still thought it was beautiful. So I was like, oh, okay. So I just made a point before I even got there. Like, I'm not going to fight him on any of what he's complaining about. I'm just gonna like let him complain. So he literally complained from like sun up to sundown. We were staying at a hotel because we were staying downtown, and we went and got food from the lobby, and he was complaining about all these things, and then he was complaining about the wings. Like, it was just weird stuff. And even when he was happy, like, so he tasted the wings And then he was like, oh, those are kind of good. And I'm like, yeah, like even things that weren't bad. He was just saying that they were bad. And then the next day went by, and I just loved on him through his complaining, which is so hard for me because normally I'm the type of person where if you mess with my energy, if you mess with my good vibes, like you're now the problem. You're now my enemy. Like I don't like that. Like I don't purposely surround myself with people that when I have good vibes or I'm trying to if I'm doing my best, like if I'm in PMDD and I'm doing my best to be positive and you're still trying to be negative, like that's a problem. So I'll remove myself. So it's different when you have a partner and he's normally like my, person that's trying to be, really happy with me and good vibes. And so when he got to this point where he was complaining, I was just like, what is your problem? Like in my mind, I didn't say anything, luckily. And so I just let him complain and I kept like being affectionate and loving. I have no idea. I always call it, my friend calls it the patience of Mother Teresa. I always say when I'm in my follicular phase, when I'm in my good days, he can pretty much do a lot of things that would never pass when I'm in PMDD. And I call it the patience of Mother Teresa because he's like, oh, this place sucks and this and this and this and you this. And I'm like, that's okay, babe. Like, it's okay. And I'll like kiss him and love on him. And he even like kisses me, but it's not even like like a passionate kiss. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It was just weird, but I was taking it in stride. And so the next morning I woke up and he wakes up earlier than me always. And so we were in a hotel this time. So he'll like get out of bed. So he's not moving around to wake me up, which is super nice. And then he was sitting on the couch and he started playing this game on his phone. And then I woke up and I literally turned to him and he was like, you see how yesterday was? Like he literally went in full conversation and I was just like wiping my eyes, like trying to wake up. Like, what is going on? He was like, you see how you were yesterday? That's how we always need to be. Like I was in a slump and you were just still there for me and you didn't pick a fight with me. You allowed me to just get it out and you still loved on me and like all these things. And I appreciate that. And you're the best. And that's what I need. This is like, he was going in depth with like like he was giving me like compliments on how I handled the night before, whereas I was still waking up trying to figure out what was going on. But this is why I love my PMDD partner, because he's so communicative about things, good or bad. Like it's kind of like a double-edged sword. So like when things are really good, he'll tell me. And when things are really bad, he will tell me. And I'm the same way. So we never don't know what's going on with the other person because we're just programmed to just speak it, real, raw, real, all the things. And so he was just like, I really appreciate that you didn't try to make me be in a better mood, because I used to do that. And I think he was saying that because in the beginning of our journey, like I used to be like, no, you need to think positive, only think positive thoughts, like all these things. And he didn't want to think positive thoughts. He knows about the power of positive thinking and all those things, but that's not what he wanted to hear. He just wanted to be able to be grumpy without it causing an issue with us. And I let him do that. And the next day he was so grateful. He was so relieved. He was like, I know how I acted. I apologize for it. I'm so sorry for the way that I acted, but I'm so thankful to you that you didn't go off on me or you didn't fight with me and you allowed me to just get that out and be in that slump. And we ended up having like the rest of the trip was like one of the best, like one of the top 5. And I attribute that to me not feeding into his negative mood, because in the past I 1000% would have, and I would have been like, you're the reason, you're destroying my peace. This is when it goes into the breakups. You're disturbing my peace. I'm trying to be positive. I'm doing all these things for you. You're so ungrateful, all these things. And that's what would have led to the breakup talk. So we didn't do that. So I would say to so when my friend asked me like, what is it that I could do? Like I'm trying to get my partner help for seasonal depression. And I just said, you just have to let them go through it. Like if you know that your partner is going to be, out of it in March, you just have to support them and recognize that there are seasons, which is why we're going through this series here on the podcast about the seasons of your PMDD relationship, right? We talked about winter before. Now I'm talking about seasonal depression. There are seasons, but they're not permanent. So you can't make permanent decisions based off of temporary emotions, temporary feelings, because when spring comes, and I can start to see it a little bit, but when spring, because we're at the end of, well, you're going to see this podcast a little bit later. You'll probably hear this by spring. But like when spring comes, those things that your partner is doing are going to start to wear off and they're going to go back to themselves. But you have to just get through those times. So I want to give you some tips today about what you can do if your partner is struggling with seasonal depression, or if they call it a slump, or if you just notice that your partner is going through something that is completely different from what they normally go through and it's really causing issues with your PMDD relationship. So I just want to first define seasonal depression, which in the DSM, which is the diagnostic statistical measurement, like it's basically the big book that doctors use when they, actually I have it here because I use it all the time for my PMDD doctor. It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5, most current one. And it's from the American Psychiatric Association. And I want to just let you know that it's called seasonal affective disorder. So if you go to the doctor and you just say seasonal depression, they may not call it that if they actually diagnose you. It's SAD. That's what they call it, seasonal affective disorder. And this is a reoccurring depression that occurs in the late fall and the winter months. Like I told you, it started for November for my PMDD partner, and it will probably go to March when, it starts getting lighter towards the evenings, and it also, starts getting warmer outside. And it basically happens like this every single year. And what I want to tell you about this is that what I want you to know most is that this is temporary. So I don't want you to think that it's permanent. I know it can feel like it's permanent because it's, you have to think that's like 5 months. It's like a long time. And it can happen anywhere between those fall and winter months. I know for my partner, it's literally like November to March. But I want to let you know that you can successfully combat seasonal depression long before you feel its effects. So you don't have to wait until it hits you and you start to see your partner go into that slump. You can actually do something about it beforehand. Like, had I known that this is what my PMDD partner had, then at the beginning of it, I would have started doing certain things, that the tips that I'm going to give you right now, I would have started to do them a little bit before versus being like really reactive to it. Because now I had already gone through months and months and months of borderline breakups and everything like that. Because he was just so adamant about staying in this place that I just kept thinking it was going to go away, and it didn't. And I wanted it to really, really bad. But I'm going to give you some tips right now. So the first thing that I did for my PMDD partner, like as soon as I recognized, oh, you have this, is I bought him a sun lamp, and I got it really off of Amazon. It's called Light Therapy. And so it's one of the things that my PMDD partner didn't like was that, so number one, he works in a building that when in his specific office, like in his area, there's no windows around it. So I got him a sun lamp that he can put in his office because there was no way for him to get any direct sunlight. He was actually driving to work when like the sun wasn't up because it was, like the sun rises later. So he would go to work, he would drive to work around 5 or something, and the sun really doesn't come up around the fall and winter like until like 7:30. So he would leave work around 6 or whatever, and the sun would already be down. So he would like literally never see the sunlight. So the first thing you can do for your PMDD partner is you're basically mimicking the sun. So you're going to purchase a sun lamp from Amazon, and that's going to, number one, help them. And you can just get replacement bulbs for them because I know it's a long period of time that they might use them, but just have them get exposure to that. on a daily basis, because even if they say initially like this isn't helping, no, over time it will help. They need to see, that kind of sun that they don't see if they're not getting that exposure from where you are. And then I want you, the second PMDD trauma transformational tool is you have to allow them to have a social life, being socially active. I know for my PMDD partner, even today, we're still in winter and he's still in seasonal depression. But today, you have to give them activities to do, like not give them activities to do, but just like support them if they say that they're going to do something social. So he went to go see a friend. He woke up this morning, didn't do his morning routine. So the first thing I want you to do, if they stop doing certain things that they normally would do, don't judge them for it. Like, that was where I went wrong. I kind of initially was like, why aren't you doing this? Like, my thing to fix it was trying to get him to do the things that he was normally doing that would make him feel good. But you have to understand, it's kind of like PMDD. When they are in the seasonal depression, they have a different routine than they normally do. So like, kind of like how we switch our routine when we go into PMDD, they switch their routine when they go into seasonal depression. And so I had to just accept that, like, I'm getting a different version of my PMDD partner. And if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, you need to understand that there are seasons to your relationship. So you're going to have to love and embrace and navigate every season of your relationship with your specific PMDD partner. This goes the same for you. You can change during different seasons. Us having PMDD, our seasons are monthly. But like sometimes, if your partner has seasonal depression, it's like quarterly or like half the year or something like that. So whenever he said that he wanted to go over his friend's house for something, he went over there and he had a good time. And then he came back and he went to sleep early. So what my PMDD partner, I noticed that he does when he's in seasonal depression, he doesn't stay up as long as he normally would. Like, he kind of just wants the day to go away. Like, I notice his days are kind of shorter. He's going to sleep earlier. He's sleeping a lot more. And then he's waking up not energized. And I just have to accept that that's okay, because I know when we go into PMDD, we can sleep. I know for me, I can sleep for 11 or 12 hours when I'm in PMDD, but then I still wake up and I'm exhausted. And so it seems like the same thing happens with my PMDD partner with seasonal depression, because it doesn't matter how much sleep he gets, he still doesn't wake up to be that naturally happy person that I know that he is deep down. And I want you to know that, like, you just have to accept that part of them and not judge them for it, and not think that they're less than or like any of these things. So embrace all of the social aspects of their life, get them out, because sometimes being with friends can kind of get them to forget about the fact that they're in seasonal depression, at least for a moment. The next PMDD trauma transformational tool was something that we did a month ago, and that was take a winter vacation. So we went to Lake Tahoe and we had an amazing time. And this is basically, they don't like the winter months, but we're choosing activities to do to embrace it. So he was very excited to get winter gear, to get ski gear, to get gloves and like all of these things. And he went skiing. We all went skiing. We went on hikes and took amazing pictures. So now we have memories of being in the winter and being happy. We threw snowballs. Like, I made sure that we had time to come inside and it was nice and warm and cozy. So it wasn't torturous, but it's kind of getting your PMDD partner to look at seasonal depression in a way that doesn't make them feel disgusting about going into the winter, because now when next winter rolls around, he'll remember all of the fun things that we did on that trip and look forward to it versus dreading it and then starting to have symptoms really, really early. You know how we're about to go into PMDD and we start having PMDD symptoms like really, really early? This is a way that we can kind of reframe our minds to be like, I don't completely hate it. I know that it's coming, but that's okay, because we can do something positive with it. So SAD occurs every single winter. And you have to think about that. You may think, oh my gosh, that's so draining that my partner's going to be in a funk every single winter, but like we're in PMDD every single month. So there's that. So I want you to take advantage of those winter vacations, plan things to do, maybe plan on going to, a hot place, which I've been trying to do for the last couple months. Try to go to a hot place during the summer or during the winter so that you can feel a glimpse of that summer coming back and you can kind of rejuvenate them. Like they can get that kind of rebalance and they're like, oh, okay, it's coming back. The next PMDD trauma transformational tool is help them maintain their appearance as much as possible. I know for my PMDD partner, it really messes with his head when he starts to gain weight during the winter. I mean, it is a mental struggle when he starts to gain weight and when his clothes don't start to fit because you have to remember, he's not doing his morning routine anymore. He's not eating well. Like that's another thing with not doing his morning routine of like exercising and doing all the other things he does in it. He's also not eating well. He's binge eating like a lot of unhealthy things. Like there's a very unhealthy lifestyle that's attached to this. So obviously your weight is going to follow. But you know how that saying is, when you look good, you feel good. Well, the same is the opposite. When you don't look good, you don't feel good. And there's been a lot of vacations that we've gone on, including the one in Lake Tahoe where he was, putting on his clothes and he's like, oh, how do I look? Like he's starting to get really insecure because his clothes are fitting way too tight. And he's just not feeling comfortable. And if you have to buy new clothes, like that's a whole nother mind warp. And so you have to do something that maintains your appearance because it affects how you feel. Not for the sake of just looking good to look good. It means if you're in winter and you're already feeling grumpy and you're already feeling moody, you gaining weight and not being able to fit in your clothes is only going to make you feel worse. So with my PMDD partner, I encourage him to start doing, things. It's kind of like he knows what it is to do because he normally does it. So it's very torturous. It's like he knows what to do, but he just doesn't do it. And he said that himself. He's like, I know what it is that I need to do, but I'm just not doing it because it feels like he doesn't have, the energy. Because you have to think about it, it's called seasonal depression. That means he doesn't have the energy to do the things, but he has done it a couple times, I would say. The last couple weeks actually. And when he's done it, every single time he's felt better about himself. Every single time he's done his morning routine, he's like, I did my morning routine. I feel so good. And so if you are the partner that does not have seasonal depression, the best thing you could do is to adopt that healthy lifestyle to be an example for them. Because I've kept up with my morning routine because it keeps me sane. But like, I've been sharing it more with him and he's like, you motivated me to do it today. And then he in turn feels good. Because you get those endorphins, you start to feel good about yourself because when you move your body and you exercise, then you're automatically going to eat healthier and then you feel way less guilty. All you're doing is removing the guilt, the shame, all of the things that come with, not maintaining your appearance and starting to gain that winter weight. Like it's hard for everyone, but if you have seasonal depression and you're already in that negative state, like it's even worse. So overall, I want you to know that you can effectively combat seasonal depression with your PMDD partner or even you by being aware of both your behaviors that happen. Like I want you to take inventory of what specifically changes for you during these fall and winter months and how does it affect your relationship. And so you start implementing these small PMDD trauma transformational tools. And then over time, before you know it, hopefully they hold you off until the spring comes and you cannot have those PMDD arguments, not go into those PMDD breakups, and not feeling like seasonal depression has robbed you of your PMDD relationship. You got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.